Jefferson Robbins with NCWLIFE. The city of Wenatchee is losing its strong right arm. Gloria came to the city in 2020 as the Executive Services Director for the city of Wenatchee, hired by former Mayor Frank Kuntz. She became the city administrator within the last few years. She's told us recently she'll be leaving at the end of this month, August 31st. She agreed to give us a little time here at City Hall. Gloria, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me about how it was that you got into city services, into the business of being a city administrator.
Yeah, well, I joke, but it's true. I didn't know much about government, to be honest with you. I looked for a job in government because I wanted holidays and weekends off. But I started with the city of Fresno, and I started in the city manager's office, which completely opened my eyes to what a city does, to be able to kind of be in that hub of activity of the legislative, the capital projects, the policy making. I was completely in love with the work. And so I was I had a lot of opportunities there to kind of promote. And so I started with the city of Fresno as an executive assistant. I did some HR work for some time, and then I was the business manager, deputy, and kind of continued to move up. And so that really was the beginning of just, let me try this. I don't know much about it, but then completely going, wow, what an amazing world, and how cool that we get to do this. So then I moved to Wenatchee in, like you said, 2020. And this position sort of fell into my lap. And, former Mayor Kuntz and I talked about how this could potentially be a good fit, and it worked out. And so started as an executive services director, which was kind of a lateral from my past work. It was very sort of project oriented, but also supporting the mayor. And then got the promotion to city administrator in 2023.
So I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when you first came to Wenatchee in 2020, you weren't necessarily looking for a job in city government.
Right.
Tell me the story about how you got recruited to that.
Yeah, I wasn't. I worked 5 years in Fresno, and I love the work, but it is high stress work, and it is, 60, 70 hour plus weekends. And so I really just said, let me take some time to relax, to figure out, do I want to continue to do this work? I think that you have to be 100% in this, otherwise it doesn't work, right? And so I took that pause to say, do I still want to do this? And Frank literally showed up at my doorstep. So just through some funny LinkedIn connections, found out that I was in town, and I joke that because it's a small town and it was much smaller than I lived in, I thought, does the mayor come say hi to everyone? Does he just show up and welcome everyone? Because I wasn't, and mind you, I lived in East Wenatchee, so obviously I hadn't figured out my
He crossed the river to come.
He did. Yeah, I hadn't quite figured out the differences just yet. So yeah, it was a really informal, positive conversation with Frank. Just, hey, you have this great experience. Come learn about Wenatchee. Let's see if this fits. I had some great conversations with directors and the council members, and it just felt good. It felt right. And of course, I love working with Frank. We're still really, really good friends. And so to me, it was very natural, and it felt like the right thing to do. And I would have and have loved working with him. So it was a great choice.
The job of city administrator, can you sort of outline and describe what the duties are, what you're having to deal with day to day?
Yeah, so the city administrator job is sort of the administrative arm of the strong mayor form of government. And so operationally, I oversee all of the departments. And what that means is, from a policy standpoint, from a funding standpoint, from a personnel standpoint, of course, we have the directors who do all of the day-to-day operations, but my job is really to kind of look at it all comprehensively and make sure that the policies of the mayor and the city council are moving forward, any major projects that are moving forward. So really it is, to me, the way I've done it is support to my team to make sure that the city continues to move forward on kind of administrative operations. I kind of to help give a frame of reference, it's sort of like a coach, right? You've got all of these great players, and they know how to do their job, and they're talented, and they know how to play football. But there's always a coach to help look at the strategy. What are we doing 3 to 5 years from now? That's my job. And then also to support the city council and the mayor. So whether it's legislative policy, what's happening out in the state or federal levels, how does that all wrap into what we're doing locally? And so it really is kind of the conduit for a lot of stuff. I also interact a lot with the public. Same thing to, again, move forward those implementation policies and priorities. So I wear a different hat every day. It really is sometimes project management. It is sometimes things like planning our internal employee breakfast and helping, support workplace culture. And it's a little bit of everything, which I love. That's part of the fun of it. I guess that's the best way I would explain it, is a little bit of everything all day long.
And if you're a coach, your immediate team members are the managers of individual departments, community development, public works.
Right.
Those folks are reporting to you.
Correct.
You're trying to get the mayor's agenda pushed forward through those departments.
Exactly. Yep.
So how does that work as city administrator? How has that differed from where you started here as executive services director? Because there was a change in your title and the way these jobs are allocated under the city ordinance.
Yeah, so the biggest difference is that direct oversight. As a executive service director, I was sort of a peer position to those directors, supporting the mayor's office specifically in mayoral priorities, whereas the city administrator became the oversight over all of the departments while supporting the mayor's and the city council's priorities and goals. So that's sort of the biggest shift. And I think for me, the change was impact, the ability to be able to make more decisions. So for example, internally, right, we've started to talk about strategic planning. And at the director level with your peers, it just doesn't work because I was only in charge of kind of my office. At the city administrative level, I can start to lead the departments better in that way, to say we need to start looking 3 to 5 years on a future budget. How do we start doing that, and being able to give them sort of some directives and guidance on to how to get us there, and then also getting that feedback from them to get us there. That didn't seem to be the place for the director. Again, as a peer position, that was more the role of the mayor. Whereas with the city administrator now, the mayor has that ability to focus on policy and things like the public facilities district, Rivercom, some of these major regional things that are probably full-time jobs in their own, and allow me to take care of that day to day.
Can you think of, Laura, any particular projects that you've come on board, tried to steer through, whether it's come to completion or not in your tenure, that you're proudest of having handled? You're proud of how they've developed or how they've come along?
Definitely Compliments Parkway. We can't go that much further without talking about that one. That one, when I first got here, there were 2 positions that were handling that project, and unfortunately they moved on very quickly once I got hired. And so I took it on initially just to say, okay, let me understand what the project is, so then I can figure out who we need to hire to move it forward. But the more and more that I got involved, the more that I thought this has to be handled at the mayor and kind of the city administration level, because it's such an important project, and you're constantly working with state and federal officials and our local partners, and I couldn't let it go. But it was also such a fun project. I was reflecting back on even the environmental process. I had to become a quasi-noise expert to figure out how to explain that to the public and also communicate it to our council, to our partners like at the PUD. So not only was it really fun and challenging, but now seeing it being built in really generally short time, to go from an environmental process, getting $92 million, getting another $85 million, and then having it go and be under construction right now is, you don't see that. So very proud of that, very proud of the team that also helped that, our engineering team, our lobbyists, our consultants. I mean, we've really had some top tier people working on this, and there's no way it would have gotten done as fast as it did if it wasn't for that team as well. So just really proud to have been part of that, especially the impact that it'll have once it's built.
You used 2 words there I wanted to question you about: fun and challenging, which some people see as 2 very different things. So it sounds like getting your head into a project like this is something that really excites you. Yeah. So why is that?
I love solving problems. I think it's just, to me, when something goes wrong, even to me, that's a data point. Right? I go, okay, that didn't work. How do we readjust? And that's just what feels right for me. I think it's really fun to try to how do you get things moving and how do you accomplish things? But also the impact piece is fun to me, right? At the end of the day, we are building a transportation project that's going to impact this community forever. So these are really fulfilling projects too. So I think the fun part is what the impact is here locally and what that means to what we get to have. The challenging part is, yeah, these are tough conversations and tough negotiations, but I will say in terms of working with the community, while I've had challenging conversations, I know that they're always advocating for what they think is the community's best interest, and so am I. And so whatever we come up with, whether there's sort of a give take, right? I think we end up with the right thing. And so even though it is challenging, to me it's still fun because at the end of the day I can walk out with, whoever I've just chatted with, and even though we've had a tough negotiation, we can go grab coffee and it's fine because at the end of the day we're both advocating for the right thing.
What was different or what was surprising to you about Wenatchee when you came here as a community, as a place that you're going to help to lead?
I think it's kind of what I just said about community involvement. I've never seen, when I used to work with the city of Fresno, when we did open houses, we were outnumbered staff to people all the time, 10 staff members, 1 person or 2 people. And for a large city, people didn't really seem to be interested for whatever reason. And that's really actually something that's difficult in government is generally people don't show up until it impacts them, where we would love to see people involved throughout the process, in the planning, in the outreach, not just when it's kind of ready to go. That's not the case here. People are incredibly involved, incredibly invested, have lots of great ideas, want to contribute. I participated and helped lead the Riverfront Park planning process. We had a steering committee of 20 really engaged people. When we did the open houses at Pybus, we had, even our consultants were like, this is amazing. How did you get all these people to show up? And this is just Wenatchee. Wenatchee cares about its community and they show up, and that was really refreshing and really really exciting because that's what people in our role want to see. We want to hear from the community.
You are bilingual. You were raised speaking Spanish and English.
Yes.
How useful has that been to you in this job? Wenatchee is, I think, about a 20 to 25% Hispanic population, some of whom don't have English as a first language.
I think being not only bilingual but bicultural is really important. Being someone who's reflective of the community, especially in the Hispanic and Latino community, I feel like relationships are really important in building that trust. And so being able to show up as someone who looks like you and understands you helps me bridge those conversations a lot faster. I can be in both worlds and operate in both worlds. That used to actually feel kind of like a hindrance to me when I was younger, to be honest, because I felt like I wasn't good enough for one or good enough for the other. But as I continued through my career, I was able to realize I can be in both spaces and feel comfortable, and that's a gift, actually, to be able to do that. So I think it's been incredibly helpful in establishing relationships, which are key to the work that I do. But then also just getting to know people. That's part of the fun of the job. So yeah, really important, and I'm really, really grateful that I've been able to establish that through, just my background.
And it opens up the room, as you said. People can come to the city with a level of comfort knowing somebody there will be able to speak with me.
Totally. I don't feel like I'm a representative of the community, right? Like I don't say like I'm representing the Latino population at all. However, I do get people all the time who are like, we're so happy to have a Latina in government and in your position. It makes them feel like they have someone that will advocate for them in the spaces that they can't be in, or that understands, or that is at least always bringing it up. And so that always gives me a lot of pride to hear that, because yeah, the community does see that and acknowledges it, and it is something that's important to them too.
So a lot to talk about. What should a future city administrator for the city of Wenatchee keep in mind? I mean, if you had a lesson to pass on, what do you think that lesson would be?
Wenatchee's small enough, but also resourced enough. We're not this tiny rural city that doesn't have enough resources to do cool things. We have a lot of really fun things that have happened here. We're also not so large that we can't flex and adapt and innovate. And I think that's sort of the secret sauce here, is that we've got amazing talent also at the city of Wenatchee. So amazing talent, enough resources to get stuff done, but also to be flexible. So I would encourage our next city administrator to really take advantage of that. That's not the case everywhere. I think that's very unique, and I think that's why Wenatchee's been successful and has grown the way it has. Partnerships are key. I've kind of said that through the interview, but we as the city don't get to do the stuff that we do without the port, without the Downtown Association, without all of those groups who are kind of filling in the gaps from a communication standpoint, from a resource standpoint, even private citizens, right? The story of Pybus, that was before my time, but we kind of go back to that all the time about that success of the port and the city and the private. And so partnerships are really key in getting stuff done. We can only do so much on our own, and I think that there is an interest and want to have those collaborations, and so I would really lean into those. Taking care of your people, I think that's a huge one always. I'm here to support my team, not the other way around. I really, they're the ones that do the job every single day, so that's always something that's really, really important. And then celebrate. I think we're so busy all the time that sometimes we don't get the opportunity to actually pause and say, that was pretty cool, right? When we got the money for infra, we were like, great, now we got to go do this.
The infra grant that helped to fund Confluence Parkway.
The $92 million, the federal grant. Got the call, we pretend, when they called us, they said, would you take $92 million instead of $102? And I put the phone on pause, and we looked around. Of course, we screamed and yelled and said yes, and then put the phone on unpause and said, "That's okay. We'll do that." So, yeah, taking the time to really celebrate that. I think we maybe went and got a beverage, but it wasn't. We don't do that all the time because of all the great stuff that we do, and we're just kind of constantly moving and keeping going. So, yeah, take the time to celebrate all the good stuff that's happening here.
Where's next for you?
Oh, that's the next big question. I'm not sure. I kind of like I mentioned when I left the city of Fresno, I really want to take a pause to go, what is right for me? Where am I going to be? Where am I going to be 100%? Because that's just, how I want to move forward in my career steps. So for now, I'm just going to take time to visit some family, do some travel, and really reflect on my time here and figure out what might be next for me. I've loved the state of Washington. I've loved living in Wenatchee. And so if there's opportunities that happen here, I'd love to be able to stay, but I also am open to other opportunities. So really just some rest, some family time, and then some reflection.